And welcome into the Monday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody's off to a wonderful start of their day. And if you're a Titans fan, the start of today, the entirety of today, will probably be better than it was yesterday. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. And yes, if you're a Titans fan right now,
Our prayers are with you.
You're not a Bears fan. Think about losing a game like that when you're so excited that you won.
Oh, there's that.
I mean, at this point, at least you're bracing for it, right?
I mean, I would hope so.
Yes.
Although it was 14-14 at one point yesterday.
Hey, my scenario was playing out perfectly. They're moving the ball. Well, Arden Key is just tearing up Taylor Decker. I'm like, see? Told you guys. And then
NWI, another touchdown.
NWI, just, again, give him more respect.
Yeah.
And then, but, the Titans, boy, they do a lot of bad things on the football field.
Boy, do they ever. And they put almost all of them on display yesterday in Detroit. We're obviously going to get to that throughout the show here today. We'll have Paul Kuharski at 7:30. We'll have Corey Curtis at 8 o'clock. Full reaction to a 52-14 loss to the Detroit Lions. And I want to congratulate Tennessee Titans. They managed to give up 52 points yesterday and lose by a billion with Jared Goff throwing for 85 yards. I just want to congratulate the Tennessee Titans. I did not know that would be possible, but the Titans pulled that sucker off yesterday. It was beautiful.
Yeah, look, I think if there's a headline, I guess, out of the Titans game, if there's one thing you're going to pick out, to me, it's probably the special teams. I really don't think I've seen anything like this. I mean, they gave up 3 huge returns that counted.
Yeah.
2 punt, 1 kick, and then another one that got called back. And then on top of all the other issues they've had earlier this year, I mean, Jared made years worth of complaining about Craig Ackerman. I mean, what are you going to say about Colt Anderson right now?
Well, he needs to be fired today. That's what I'll say about it. He needs to be fired today. Today, look, I understand it's the first year and all that. There's a certain baseline of standards in the National Football League that you have to come close to achieving. This is the worst special teams unit I've ever seen. It's the worst one I've ever seen in the NFL. We could talk about Ackerman and all that. Craig Ackerman's special teams units were way better than this. I mean, I will say Nick Folk continues to make his kicks, so good for him. But other than that, I mean, they're getting punts blocked at the beginning of the year. I guess they've solved that. But now, you gave up 300 return yards yesterday. I don't even know what to do with that. Like, you almost let Khalif Raymond set an NFL record on you yesterday. Like, there's a point where you got to stop something, and that needs to happen today. Like, there's no reason for this to continue status quo with special teams. It's embarrassing what happened yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if that happens. You're talking Brian Callahan this early in his first year, and if it does, the obvious guess would be that was a call from Houston. Just like with Mike Mularkey and Bobby April, about 8 years ago. After one bad return, now granted, it was a return to flat out win a close game.
It was.
But, really, it's not like that group was having some consistent problems like this. Stonehouse kicks very deep and out kicks his coverage, and that does make it a challenge.
Yes.
So I'm sure, someone could go through the film and say, see, if this guy just doesn't do this, then it's fine. This guy got out of structure here, or it's fine. But who's in charge of that? I mean, it has to go on to the special teams coach. I mean,
it's something every week.
Yeah, it is.
It's something every week with the special teams. And Brian Callahan was asked about that in the immediate aftermath of the game yesterday, and gave an interesting response, and then tried to be asked again by Kuharski in the middle of that response, which I loved. Here was that exchange yesterday after the game.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all that. That's, obviously we haven't played well enough on special teams, but that's a little bit too much for after a game. But look, I think Colt's a good football coach. We haven't played well enough. We haven't coached well enough. So there's really nothing else to say about that.
So Callahan did not want to get into the, firing Colt Anderson in the post-game press conference yesterday, to which Kuharski, why?
To which, yes, and to which Callahan goes to the basically
coach better, play better.
Got to play better.
Yeah,
there we go. We have arrived at got to coach better, got to play better season.
Why?
Oh man. Don't worry, Brian Callahan. You will hate him severely by the end of this season.
Very quickly, it may turn on Kuharski. But I mean, look, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic when I say it. It's the worst special teams unit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do with it. I mean, it's something every week. And yesterday, we talked about it when they got punts blocked multiple weeks in a row. And it's like, how do you possibly let this happen in the National Football League, right? Like, there are teams that go like a decade without getting a punt blocked, and you let it happen a couple weeks in a row, and now you just can't cover kicks and punts. Like, I don't know what to do with it. I mean, and look, maybe some of it is on Stonehouse, right? Like, you're bombing the ball down there, and there's one of them, I can't remember which one because there were so many yesterday, where Raymond fielded the ball, and I looked at it as soon as he caught it. I was like, I don't know if there's anybody within 30 yards of him right now. Like, he's kicking the crap out of the ball. So, yeah, but again,
that's a challenge.
That's on the coach. Like, you got to get that corrected. It's like, hey, stop doing that.
Sync it up.
Right.
Complimentary football can happen on an actual punt, too.
Yeah. I mean, it was
punter and the coverage working together.
They made Khalif Raymond look like Devin Hester yesterday. It was unbelievable.
He is fast.
He is very fast.
Titans legend Khalif Raymond.
Dan Gamble, very excited to have him, as we found out in the post-game press
conference. Calls him Leaf.
Leaf, yes.
Yep. Yeah, it's just and again, it's like, you look at those situations and then, of course, the turnovers. And I would put that first Rudolph pick, right in that range of
it's brutal. Some
of the worst picks the Titans have thrown this year. And boy, have they thrown some bad ones. And it's amazing. Like they had 285 yards of offense at halftime, which is more than their almost 30 yards more than their full game average, which is 31st in the league.
Yeah.
They had already blown past their total yardage game average at halftime. The Lions had 133.
Yeah.
And they were down 21 points.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know that I've seen a game like that.
I don't either. And here we are yet again, Joe. And I was, me and my wife were going somewhere yesterday, and the Titans got to 14 points, pretty quickly into the second quarter. And I was like, watch. They won't score again. They will not get to 20. I guarantee it. And they didn't score again the rest of the game.
I thought the same thing, sitting there with my in-laws, like, they a lot of times they'll score early and then they won't. But I'm like, today, though, they're at least getting in the 20s, right?
It's like clockwork. I mean, it's just they get to 14. It's like, all righty. That's it, baby. Nothing in the second half. Did not score a point in the second half again.
It's, it's rough. I'm sorry, Titans fans. At this point, I've gotten to the point where I'm just kind of like every Monday, like, hey, guys, you okay out there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's unbelievable. And you've gotten to 1-6. Mason Rudolph has started each of the last two games. And look, you've played some really good teams the last 2 weeks, but this kind of shows you what the gap is right now. Like, you can make an argument that Detroit is, if not the best, probably second or third best team in the entire league right now. I mean, Kansas City's 7-0, so it is what it is. Like, they apparently are just not going to lose again. So they're in the top three to me in terms of best football teams in the league. And this is the gap. I mean, they didn't really have to throw a forward pass yesterday and beat you 52-14. I mean, you can't blame the Lions. Like, the field position was what the field position was, right? Between the punt returns, the kick returns, the interceptions, the fumbles. I mean, you're starting where you start.
Yeah,
so
they're screwing over Jared Goff's MVP race.
They did screw over Jared Goff's MVP race yesterday. But, hey, 3 touchdowns. Yeah. 3 touchdowns on 15 passes, not too bad.
85 yards.
It's pretty,
3 touchdowns.
85 yards. It's just unbelievable. And again, the Titans pride themselves on stopping the run and being a team that's difficult to run the football against. And Lions ran the ball for 6.8 a pop yesterday. I mean, it's just Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 for 127 and a touchdown. Montgomery, 9 carries, 33 yards, a touchdown. That first touchdown run that he had, go watch that play. Jeffrey Simmons got pushed about 10 yards back.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I've never seen Jeffrey Simmons get put on roller skates like that. That is, by the way, again, I've said it before. Penei Sewell is the Lions' best football player,
Yeah.
but I've never seen someone do that to Jeffrey Simmons. He absolutely just dragged him in the end zone. It was at
legitimately
least
10 yards.
8 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just absolutely. I mean, I've never. You say Simmons says some games where he's too quiet, doesn't make enough plays, all that stuff. I've never seen him get his butt kicked like that.
It was unbelievable. 52-14, the final score yesterday in Detroit. The Titans fall to 1-6, and it was a complete disaster on the special team side of things as well. We'll take your thoughts on all that. 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. Is somebody getting fired today? We'll get more into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all just start with ourselves first, you know. And if we're not playing well enough, what can I do better as a player? Where are we able to make an improvement to do something better than we've done it? Trust me, all these guys, we're all held accountable. There's nothing that's not being accounted for. So we have to do a good job of taking that accountability to the field and performing on game day, coaching and playing.
That's Brian Callahan after the 52-14 loss yesterday by the Tennessee Titans. Hey, look, I still really like Brian Callahan. I think he's a good guy. We'll see how the coaching goes as it moves forward here. It is starting to kind of feel like Groundhog Day in the press conference a little bit. I don't really know what you're supposed to say after all that stuff, but
I mean, he's still giving some answers with some substance to them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of coaches in this situation, it would be straight. I mean, like Vrabel never had it this bad, right? I mean,
No.
Vrabel didn't have like potentially the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like if these were Vrabel pressers, good God, you know, it would
be more fun.
Although every once in a while, I guess when things got bad, Vrabel would like open up. I remember like at Denver, he's like, "This sucks, losing sucks." He didn't say it like that, but you know what I mean. I give Callahan, yes, there is some repetitive because it's like, what else can you say about the football? Is it so bad?
I know.
But I still think overall it's pretty good. Like again, I'm just speaking strictly media here. Pretty good willingness to answer some questions.
Let's go back
to Kuharski says, "Why?
Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. What'd you think of that one yesterday?
Vrabel would just be like, I don't know. I guess I'm not a very good coach. Like,
yeah. He'd probably throw one of those out there.
He did do that one time.
I'm not even mad at it, Robby, man. I'm just like, all right, that's what we are, dude. Like, every bit of that is what we are. We find new ways to lose, like creative ways to get smoked and embarrassed. Fire that coach, dude. Like, that's where I'm at. And I said it to you like 3 weeks ago, and you laughed at me. Fire him. He sucks. He doesn't adjust. All his boys suck. Is Colt your boy? Is that why you want to adjust it? Like, or talk about him right there in front of Paul? Like, yeah, that was the worst thing anybody's ever witnessed. Like, every single punt. I told my wife after the second one, I'm like, oh my God, they can't cover a punt. And then he returned the next one for the touchdown. I'm like, dude, like, somebody's got to get fired. And I hope it's the coach. I hope it's the head coach today. I hope it freaks everybody out. And they're like, she just fired somebody 8 weeks in again. So that's what I'm at, dude. Fire that coach. He sucks. He's garbage. Take his daddy with him. I don't care. Get him out.
Thank you, Adam.
That'd be something. Callahan.
1 week we're going to stink, and this guy sucks, and then I suck.
There you go.
See?
There you go.
When he wanted to, he could bring it.
He could. He'd bring it here and there. So it's funny to hear that call from Adam, and then you have this text from Ron who says, "Good morning, guys. I don't know about you, but I want an organization like the Steelers. They know how to run an organization." Yeah, that's right now. The Titans are about as far from that as you can be.
Yeah.
And I promise, you know, another way to get farther, fire everyone today. That'd be amazing.
I am
fire everybody.
I am for firing Colt Anderson today.
Right, but he's talking about Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
But hey,
I
get it.
So I'm going to ask you a question that there's no way you could possibly know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. Do you think Colt Anderson gets fired today?
Do I think he does?
Yeah.
I think there's a not fractional chance of that. I'm trying to think if I think it's more than 50-50. Yeah, it's probably about 50-50.
Yeah. I mean,
and look,
the one thing holding it back is it's the first year, right? Like that's my holdup with it. It's the first 7 games with this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And but again,
it's that bad.
Malarkey, because that's what I was thinking too. It's like, do you already meddle? And again, I'm sure if this happened, then we would be told that no, this was purely Brian Callahan's decision. Right. But my thinking was, do you get in there in the first year coaching tenure and make something like that happen? But again, it was Malarkey's first actual full year as head coach. He was just interim coach year before. It was his first year as coach, and it was pretty early in the season too. I think it was in October, and Bobby April. Now that was embarrassing the Adams family in Houston, so that's a cardinal sin. But yeah, I'm about 50-50 on it. Will not be a surprise at all.
This would be a situation, and maybe this is a bit hypocritical, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This would probably be a situation where I don't know that I would mind my owner meddling a little bit. Like, again, there's a certain amount of standard that you got to have. This is so far below standard that I've never seen anything like it in the National Football League. I haven't. I've seen some bad special teams play, both here. Green Bay has had some bad special teams play for a while. It's getting a little bit better now, but they've had some bad ones for a while. Nothing approaches this. Like, they can't do anything right outside of kick a field goal on special teams. And thank God they've got Nick Folk, because can you imagine the special teams issues they're having, plus the kicking carousel that they had for the last 5 years around here? Like, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I don't know if I've seen this in college football. Like, it's really bad.
No, I don't either. I can't remember. Obviously, there's some wild stuff that happens in college football, and there's returns and stuff like that, but I can't remember like consistently embarrassing coverage in one game.
Yeah.
Like that. I really,
at some point, you just punted out of bounds.
In college football, I tweeted out yesterday, like basically like, this might be the worst team, and the worst special teams I've ever seen in the NFL. I think this is the worst special. And then at some point, somebody was like, "Are you sure?" Or whatever. And I was like, "Okay, maybe like the '82 Vikings were worse or something."
Yeah, Stilly did not like that tweet from you.
Well, yeah. See, did he tweet about it?
He did.
That's funny. Well, he texted me and he's like, Floyd Reese was a.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had I was randomly throwing out 82 Vikings.
Joe Rexrode better take that back, and then screenshot Floyd Reese as the special teams coach.
That's
pretty funny.
That's funny. Yeah. For the record, I totally just pulled something, out of the hat there. Sorry, Floyd.
Floyd, I have full confidence that your special teams unit was not.
I'm sure that the 82 Vikings were actually great on special teams.
I'm sure they were.
But yeah, I can't think of someone. Actually, people were tweeting at me about the 2010 Chargers, which apparently were like a legendarily terrible special team. So
sure.
Yeah. But if anybody does a list like that, if anyone out there is doing, what, I should check with my guy. My gosh, I got a friend who is the absolute special teams guru who covered the Cowboys forever, and the fact that I'm forgetting his name right now is really embarrassing. But he does the special teams rankings for the NFL, and I wonder if he's done anything like that. Like, the Titans should be entered into the all-time greats of bad special teams.
It's pretty brutal. Now. I mean, get one texter that says Ackerman looks like Lombardi compared to Colt Anderson. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. So I have no idea if they'll actually make a move.
Rick Gosselin, by the way. Sorry, Goose.
There you go.
Rick Gosselin. We'll find out.
Yeah, I have no idea if they'll actually make a move today. But it's reached the point where if they did, my reaction would be, yep, okay, I get it. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I have no problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not surprised either way. If it doesn't happen, it's not like some people will be mad. I get that. But, I don't think I'm not going to be shocked by that. But, yeah, I think you definitely have to be on alert for that today. I mean, this really is. That was Little League football stuff.
Yeah.
For an NFL team in an NFL game.
It was and again, like, look, Khalif Raymond is a nice player, and he's carved out a good role for himself in Detroit. And, I remember him being here, and he was, real good guy and all that. So I'm glad to see Khalif Raymond making the career for himself that he's made. Having said all that, there's no excuse in the NFL for you letting Khalif Raymond do what he did to you yesterday. Like, he looked like an absolute all-pro out there.
It's like Mel Gray out there.
It was unbelievable.
Anybody who remembers him.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy to see that yesterday. And that's, that's the main takeaway from yesterday, is just how bad special teams was. And look, if you want to go total spin cycle here for the Titans defense, you can say, well, I only gave up 85 yards passing to Jared Goff, gave up 164 yards on the ground. The yardage total.
Are they going to be number one in the NFL?
They'll probably still be number one. Like, the yardage total wasn't that bad that they gave up yesterday. But again, I think Brian Callahan summed it up when he basically said after the game, special teams is atrocious right now. You can't get big stops when you need it on defense. And the offense, yet again yesterday, is just all over themselves, turning the football over. 4 turnovers once again, and you force 0 yesterday. It's losing football every way you want to slice it.
Yeah. the Titans defense, I really hope they are still number one because it'll be great. Because I did hear around town a little bit this week, this number one ranked defense. I'm like, guys,
come on, guys.
I mean, this will be the classic. Let's go. Let's look at the Lions drive chart. Punt, good job, got the set. Punt, touchdown, punt, touchdown, 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 end of half, punt, touchdown, field goal, and then garbage time, couple punts. I mean, like that's yes. You put are they compromised by the offense and the special teams turnovers and returns? Yes, but also like they don't. Wherever the other team starts, they get the benefit of only allowing a 25-yard drive, so their numbers look good.
Yeah.
This is not anywhere near a great or very good defense.
No, it is not.
But it's still the best part of the team.
It is the best part of the team. I mean, here's the other thing, Joe. They scored 52 yesterday. They didn't score in fourth quarter. Like they called off the dogs. They could have put up 70 points in that game yesterday.
Sure. Absolutely. Hendon Hooker, hand off.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell's a nice guy.
He is a very nice guy. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. More of your reaction to a 52-14 beatdown by the Detroit Lions to the Tennessee Titans yesterday. We'll also get into some interesting comments from Rand Carthon as well. That's coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Titans get destroyed, 52-14 by the Detroit Lions yesterday. Titans fall to 1-6 on the regular season. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Joe, I guess Nick Suss from the Tennessean caught up with Rand Carthon at some point, I guess yesterday. And there's a quote that's kind of making the rounds from Rand Carthon that was thrown out there yesterday at the Tennessean. Here was the question from Nick Suss. Looking at what's happened in the first 7 games and building for the last 10, what do you expect from the season, having seen what you've seen? And this was Carthon's answer. Quote, I expect our guys to continue to play hard, which is what they do. The ball's not round. You don't know which way it's going to bounce sometimes. It's those couple of opportunities that we had in the game where we jar the ball loose, but it bounces right back to them. And then on the other side of us, it gets away from us. So you can't predict which way the ball bounces. But one thing I know about our team is those guys show up every day at practice. They prepare, and they come out and fight. So we've got to continue to fight until the ball bounces our way. This is from Rand Carthon. Joe, your reaction to that? That's generating a lot of buzz on Titans Twitter right now.
First of all, good job, Nick Suss. I assume this is just finding him and saying, hey, can you say something? I mean, unless it was some sort of prearranged thing, I doubt it was. So good job getting him. I think Rand Carthon needs to retire the ball bouncing talk at all.
Yeah, it would probably be good if he never said that again.
Now, Vrabel used to always say, the ball's not round,
Yep.
which is true. But he didn't always say, like every time they lost or they had a terrible season, the ball didn't bounce. I mean, this was not the ball not bouncing where this was incompetent football, terrible, terrible football that your team played. So I would retire that's just not what anybody wants to hear. And of course I'm sitting here. We're always like, we want to hear from Rand. Well, we heard from Rand.
I will be fully honest with you. My first reaction when I saw that quote yesterday was, man, I got on the radio last week and said that, I mean, there's really no excuse for Rand Carthon not to talk. And then I saw that quote and I was like, you know what? Maybe he shouldn't. Maybe he should not address the media.
By the way, side note, I talked to Rand this weekend too.
Did you?
And Chad Brinker.
Wow.
They were going in together at the Vanderbilt game in front of me.
Wow.
And I said, oh, so Diego Pavia is your next QB, huh? And they both laughed. Wow. And they did not say no. They did not deny. No. They never said no that Diego Pavia is their next quarterback. So I'm just putting that out there into the ether. You're just throwing that in there.
There's a chance.
Yes.
Telling me there's a chance.
A lot of scouts were at the Vanderbilt game. Now, granted, a lot of most of your Texas guys,
I'm sure.
Although Eli Stowers,
it's pretty good.
Vanderbilt, yeah, good. So anyway, they were busy. They were at Vanderbilt Saturday, and then so Rand was in Detroit to watch that thing Sunday. Yeah. We talked about Rand, is he going to talk? You got to talk. So he talks. Now, granted, talking to one reporter, all the other reporters on the beat are like, what about me? But the couple opportunities we had in the game where we jar the ball loose when it bounces right back to them. And on the other side of us, it gets away from us. You can't predict which way the ball bounces. That's not what happened in this game.
That's not what anyone wants to hear when you get beat.
That's not what anybody wants to hear either. No.
When you get beat 52-14, first off, you're right. That's not what happened. And number two, that's not what anybody wants to hear when you're down 52-14. And I look, I understand from the standpoint of Rand Carthon, like you're the general manager. You don't want to just get on there and just throw gasoline on the fire all the time.
Yeah, you're not going to rip your team.
But you don't have to say the ball didn't bounce our way either. Like this whole organization right now just screams tire fire. That's what it screams. I mean, we've gone over the numbers. In some ways, it feels like we're doing, Groundhog Day every Monday at this point. I mean, it just screams total disaster right now. And if you're looking for some good news for the Titans, they got Calvin Ridley going a little bit yesterday.
At
least in the first half.
That's got to be the best thing that came out of this game, right? He looked like a dude.
Yeah, he looked
good.
He looked good. And then I guess if you're continuing to try to look at it glass half full, the Patriots beat the Jets yesterday, which means right now you have the number 2 overall pick in the NFL. Well, so there is that too.
There is that. No, Ridley, much needed. And obviously, was Hopkins holding him back? Is that what it was?
Maybe.
Just need to get rid of Hopkins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15 targets.
I'm
for Calvin
kidding
Ridley
because
yesterday.
obviously they weren't even throwing to Hopkins, but yeah, for whatever reason, they were targeting him and he was catching it and he was fast and he was making plays. So that's a big look. Whatever happens with this organization, coaching staff, roster, et cetera, like he has to be part of the next few years of trying to turn it around. So you needed that. Also, NWI, just, hey, give him a chance. And what does the guy do? The guy freaking makes plays. But, hey, whoever said that before? I don't know. I mean, seriously, like we joke about it, but the guy's pretty good.
He is.
Like, play him.
Yeah. I mean, 4 targets yesterday, 2 catches, 39 yards, another touchdown for NWI.
And he was open a few other times.
He was open a few other times.
Just saying.
Wiley had the one play down the field, so something going there. But again, we're talking about all these plays we're talking about, the majority of them coming in the first half. And then there's just an absolute black hole around this team in the second half when they just can't get anything going. I mean, and they even had a couple of drives going yesterday in the second half. Now, granted, a couple of them were when it was totally out of control.
Right.
And you just drop the ball. Like Okonkwo just drops the ball. It's on the ground, and there you are with another turnover. It really is unbelievable that even in a game like that, where they totally call off the dogs, you can't generate a point in like the fourth quarter when the game is so far out of hand.
Like they're just like, go ahead, take the short stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to fumble it to you.
Yeah. Like you can't.
Ball, that I guess Randall's right. The ball didn't bounce their way when they were already down 30-something.
That is true.
And
The ball did bounce the other
true.
way when you were down 52-14. It's just, I said this yesterday on Twitter. I'm running out of things to say. Like I don't really know how to talk about this team right now, just because it's the same thing all the time. And I said it yesterday. Like I legitimately, I was watching the end of that yesterday, and I was like, I feel so bad for the diehard Titans fan that is just actively sitting through this every Sunday and just watching game after game, quarter after quarter of this go down. And it feels like it's getting worse, right? Like it actively feels like it's getting worse before our eyes. I feel very bad for Titans fans who are going through that every Sunday.
Yeah, look, I mean, I feel like people have already largely switched to what you just said, what you just brought up, which I get, which is, well, it's the race for the number 1 pick now. Man, it is. I mean, again, when you were having that conversation in October, I mean, look, it happens because there are teams that sometimes are winless at this point in the season, but it's just it's rough. And again, it's beyond the losing. I went through last night. I just sort of, I'm just going to go. I just went to a few different, what I would call Titans Twitter accounts, largely media accounts, just to kind of see, I like to just read someone's timeline through some things, all the usual suspects and stuff. And
sure.
Hey, there's still people that like what the, making the case, hey, this team could easily be 4-3 and all the conversation would be different. And there's still a lot to like about, what the front office is doing and Callahan and everything. And I think that there's definitely some truth in they lost some close games earlier and they, didn't win, and things would look different. It's like basketball. You hit shots, you don't hit shots. Sometimes you look terrible. But like a game like yesterday, I mean, obviously, to some extent, in some way, things are unraveling here, right? That's my thing. And this is where it's going to be a real challenge for Brian Callahan because, I mean, I have not entertained Brian Callahan seriously being in trouble, but he's got a heck of a challenge ahead of him this year.
No doubt.
Now, this week, you can talk number 1 pick, but Brian Callahan needs to think win a football game and beat the New England Patriots. And if it just goes full-blown grease fire here, man, I think then anything is possible and anything could be up for grabs. So, I mean, it's a huge challenge. He talks about these guys are playing hard a lot. He's mentioning that a lot. And I'm not doubting that.
How long does that continue?
But, the execution is so bad. Again, especially special teams, but overall, I mean, it's just bad execution, bad football. Nothing at all to offer in the second half of these games. No, I mean that is an overall adjustment thing that's not happening. He's got to put a stop to this at some point.
I totally agree.
It's not going to be easy.
Liam says, I feel bad that you guys have a professional obligation to watch this mess.
Thank you.
Do not feel bad for us. Of the people you should feel bad for, don't feel bad for us. We'll be fine.
Yeah. YouTube TV, you can do 4 screens.
Sure
Pretty
can.
awesome.
Ed says, is it too soon to have Dane Brugler on the program?
Dane, I know we normally do this in April, but who do you think the Titans should take with the number 1 overall pick?
Dane, what do you think about November? Did you come on then?
Oh, man.
Maybe so. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. We got a lot of your reaction to get to on our text line coming up next. We'll do that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans' 52-14 loss to Detroit on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Also, on the YouTube chat, we appreciate our YouTubers every single day. A lot of fighting on the YouTube chat lately.
Again? Today?
I haven't seen any today.
Okay.
But just saying, in general, a lot of fighting on the YouTube chat lately amongst the YouTubers. But today, everything seems peaceful so far. It's good to know. David asking, this morning, I think I'm most interested in apathy level of the fans. One measure could be the level of reaction on the text line / YouTube chat. Is it keeping up with earlier in the season, or is it dropping off weekly? This morning, it's keeping up very nicely.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of, again, basically, I go by my standard is, can I keep up with it? No. Granted, slow old man, so I don't know how much of a standard that is, but I'm not keeping up with it.
No.
Which, by the way, there was a text I was going to try to read earlier, then I'd lost track of it, about coaching, and to paraphrase, look at these Rudolph picks. Everybody makes a big deal of Levis, of course, and he hasn't played well, but do you trace that to coaching when you see a Mason Rudolph throw a pick like he did early in the game? And that's it's a fair question to ask. I mean, just about anything at this point is fair to ask about this operation.
I think there's no doubt. And look, the first pick he threw yesterday was atrocious, right? Like it's not underhanding the ball, trying to get it out of bounds halfway across the field. But it's pretty bad. Like it's pretty bad interception from a veteran quarterback that, while he has not been a starter a whole lot, has been around the game for a long time and should know not to do those things. So I'm with you. Like when you see some turnovers and some quarterback play that has been as egregious as it's been this year, yes, I think the initial reaction is, well, the Titans quarterbacks just aren't very good. Like Will Levis is not very good. Mason Rudolph, we know what he's been in the league for a long time now. And that's still the way I go with most of the reaction. But I do look at the offensive operation as a whole. I look at some of the quarterback decisions that are made, some of the play calling. And I've said it for weeks now, and I'll continue to say it. It's not been very impressive from Brian Callahan, and it's not getting any better. That's what concerns me more than anything. It's not been all that impressive from the coaching staff, and it feels like it's either staying the same or getting worse. And that's what worries me about them moving forward, is like, at some point, you've got to stem the tide here. Like and I understand they've sold some pieces off now, and Ernest Jones is gone and DeAndre Hopkins is gone. And after that debacle yesterday, who knows? We might see more of it this week with guys getting shipped out of here. But like there's been it just doesn't feel like it's getting any better whatsoever. And that part of it is concerning to me from the coaching staff of, as you're going through this thing, you ought to be coming up with more solutions than they're having. And it's the same issues every single week that we're sitting here discussing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes it's one more this or the, obviously this last week, special teams, complete debacle.
Well, sure.
But that's been pretty
But here
consistent.
we are again. You've got the whole game and you don't score a point in the second half.
Yeah.
It's every week.
That is absolutely consistent. No doubt. And look, there's a lot to this job of being a head coach in the NFL. And it's not just for him, it's for anybody who follows that path. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's just totally new to you, like we'd all say the same thing, I think, for the most part. Anybody who's paid attention to Brian Callahan, talked to him at all, whatever. He's certainly a smart guy. He has all of the credentials in terms of, well, certainly he has the quarterback. And again, even if you don't want to give him any credit, and I don't think we're saying, wow, he developed, Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford, and Joe Burrow. Nobody was saying that, right? But he worked with them. He knows what it looks like. He knows how to work with different styles of quarterbacks. He hadn't called plays, and he hadn't done any of the other things of being a head coach. And like, if you have an organization that has other weaknesses or gaps or holes, which, I mean, more and more, you have to look at this whole thing and say, okay, there's some disconnect going on somewhere in there.
Yeah.
and then your first-time guy with your first-time OC, your first-time DC, you know, I'm sure it can be overwhelming. And like I said, to me, a lot of the story moving forward is I know Titans fans, apathy / go get the number 1 pick. Man, he's got to figure out a way to fix some stuff while guys are leaving, like you said, while the roster is getting weaker, and while it has to be harder and harder to keep, to get the very best from people when it's this bad. I mean, it's just human nature.
There's no doubt about it. Now, having said all that, like, this is a bad roster. There have been worse rosters than this that have competed better than this.
Right.
Like, this is not purely, oh, well, their roster's just completely trash. It's like, well, it's not a great roster. It may not even be a good roster. I've seen worse rosters than this look like they've got more of a clue than this football team looks like.
Is this a better roster than last year's team?
I mean, on paper, yeah. Now, the quarterback play is taking a pretty steep decline.
You still had, even though he was declining, you had, even Tannehill in decline last year is much better than anything they've had at that position this year.
Yes.
Much better.
No doubt.
So that makes a big difference.
It does.
Obviously. You also last year had, your best player who, in an incredible loss to the Browns, still had, like 11 for 73 and a touch yesterday.
Yep.
But I'm with you. I think I
can't
agree.
overcome Jameis, but who can?
It's a better roster, but again, it's like, that's right. But some of the better roster on paper would be, wow, is this the best corner group they've had? Well, there's another day with no Snead, no Awuzie.
Yep.
So who cares? It's on paper and it's not on the field. Regardless, your point is dead on. This is not a one-win roster, but it's a one-win team.
Exactly. And right now there is a tidal wave of negativity, and justifiably so. Like, there should be. Like, it's a tidal wave of negativity that this team is having to kind of swim through right now. And to your point, if you're a fan and you've already turned your attention to, hey, can we get the number 1 overall pick? If not, can you finish somewhere in the top 3 and have a good chance to draft whatever you want to draft next year? That's fine. Like, I don't fault you for that. Like, if you've gotten to that point in October, number 1, it's going to be a long time till April. But number 2, I can't fault you for feeling that way. Brian Callahan, they need to win some games. Like, he needs to win some games starting this week. And look, we were kind of joking about this before the show. The competition level the last 2 weeks has been pretty steep. You got Buffalo on the road, Detroit on the road, and now you got the Patriots coming at home. Titans are at the moment 3-point favorite in that game, by the way. But do I have confidence right now that they're going to beat the New England Patriots? Nope. Sure don't. Like, they need to find a way to win a football game and to stop some of this, to stem the tide on some of this. And the question is, can they do it? Or is this just going to continue to devolve as the year goes on here, right? I mean, we always talk about the effort thing, right? In this league, if you're not playing with effort, you're probably going to get hurt at some point. And I do think with a new coaching staff and the roster being in the shape it's in right now, like, a lot of these guys are going to be playing for jobs next year, whether here or elsewhere.
Which means you don't put crappy effort
tape
on
out
tape.
there. Right.
Everybody knows that.
I'm not overly concerned with that, but I do think there's a little bit of human nature of when you're just getting, and we've talked about this before, when you're getting your head bashed into the curb every week, at some point that takes a toll, whether you want it to or not. Like, it's just really difficult to overcome that at some point. And we're talking about that on October the 28th, while there's 10 games left in the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to quote unquote quit or have no effort, but there's effort. And then there's like the higher level of effort, right? There's individual effort. And then there's like a team actually coming together and the sum of the parts being greater, right? There's that.
Yep. And
there's also preparation. That is a big part of playing on Sundays. And that can definitely erode when you have a bad team.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Dave. Dave, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. I was thinking I probably don't qualify as a great call-in fan because I probably turn off the TV at halftime most of the time. But
Okay,
My
You're the
question,
problem. Maybe if you kept watching, they'd score a
they'd
point.
score a point,
Yeah,
maybe. Who
geez.
knows?
well, maybe the players are watching the TV too. Then turn that off.
Maybe.
Hey, my comment is this: do you ever catch up? Here's my scenario. You're become a seller and you sell your good players who maybe have a 1-year contract, but then you haven't really addressed your bad players. So when it comes around to draft time, you do have draft choices to replace good players and bad players. Can you ever catch up? Thanks for
Yep.
taking
Thanks.
my call.
Look, it's hard to catch up, right? Like it's hard. And then look, here's the other thing too. Like you did spend a lot of money this offseason and you've locked yourself in with some of these guys. Like, is L'Jarius Sneed going to be a good player for them this time a year from now? I don't know. Like right now, I can't get on the field. And that's concerning as they move forward here. And quite frankly, when he has been on the field, it's not been what you expected it to be.
No. Right now, the Chiefs look, and this has happened before, but they look pretty smart for saying, okay, this is when we move on.
Yeah, they do.
Anyone out there? Any takers?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's call Rand.
Titans. We'll jump in there and give you a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. A lot more your reaction to get to on a 52-14 loss for the Titans to Detroit yesterday. We'll have Paul Kuharski coming up at 7:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys, our intern Robert here with you on this Monday morning. We will be joined by Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com coming up at 7:30. Get his thoughts on a 52-14 loss for the Tennessee Titans yesterday. In the meantime, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jeff on the text line. First-time GM, first-time head coach. Easy to see they're both in over their heads. Fault lies squarely on Amy Adams-Strunk and the Adams family. Until this organization relents, hires a proven seasoned GM, and it gives them autonomy to make the most every decision, this team will continue to be the main event on Sunday bum fights. This is from Jeff on the text line. Bum fights.
Bum fights. Interesting. Yeah. So that is that going to be the? I know. Jared has said that. That's going to be the now they must fire these guys. They must hire a GM, a quote unquote experienced GM. So they must go to the retread group, which no team in the NFL does. Not like I've said. I don't know why it's an absolute no to do that, but it's an interesting thought.
I'm not as concerned with the first time GM stuff but
just be good.
Just hire the right GM.
Right,
that's what it comes down to. Like there are plenty of first-time GMs and first-time head coaches that do a pretty good job.
They
Certainly
do.
much better than what we're seeing right now.
Right. Aussie Titans fan on Twitter, at Aussie Titans fan. Listening in from Melbourne, Australia. I get up each week at 4 a.m. to watch the Titans. So wait a minute. Then what time is it for him now? Wow, is it like late night for him? We are a badly coached team this season and hard to watch. This is a build for next season. Fix the O-line, fix special teams, find a QB. As Levis is not the guy. You know what's funny? First mention to Levis, I think, today, Robby.
Yeah.
And look, I was just as much talking about this as anybody, but I think I still think a lot of the ills of this season and losses that could have been wins that make everything look just absolutely terrible are on him. But they don't have Levis to beat up anymore. Levis had nothing to do with what was going on yesterday.
Well, one thing I think this does tell you is if you thought that Mason Rudolph was the answer to this team, going 7-10 or 8-9 and being respectable, he's not. I think we've discovered that the last couple of weeks here.
Yes. Jared texting me after church, trying to have a nice brunch with my family after Mason Rudolph threw that pick. And he's like, oh, top 3, huh? And I said he was the number 1 backup in the league, actually, Jared.
Yes.
Someone on the text line asked me where I put him. I said, okay, fine. I'll drop him to number 11. He's the number 11 backup in the NFL.
Okay. I like it. Jameis ascending up to the top with his win yesterday.
Hey, man. Jameis is number 1.
Of course he is. That's the best quarterback play they've had in a while. Certainly since Flacco last year.
Yeah, talk about in case you wondered, that's why Deshaun Watson he can't take another snap for them.
Yeah.
He's going to get paid a whole lot of money to never play again.
Yeah. Wes in Clarksville says, how can we not even get in field goal range in the second half? And that's one, we've gotten a lot of questions today about the second half. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Now, they did get in field goal range a couple times in the second half and then fumbled the ball away. So there is that. But I for the life of me, and yesterday's game maybe even more so than normal, Joe, because yesterday's game got out of control. It was 52-14 before the fourth quarter. So you would think by sheer happenstance, when they call the dogs off there, that the Titans would find a way to get the ball in the end zone in the second half. They still could not do it yesterday. The second half stuff, we get asked about it every week. I don't know. I don't know how you could possibly be as bad in the second half as this team is. And we've talked about this too. It is now gone from multiple seasons where this has been the case, now multiple coaching staffs where this has been the case. I have no idea what to make of just how inept. And it's not just the offense. The whole team is in the second half. It's unbelievable to me.
I'm with you. And I'll never change from many people overrate halftime adjustments, right? But the ongoing adjustments are not happening. Or ongoing adjustments on the other side are outmaneuvering the adjustments on the Titans side.
Yeah, they're getting their butt
there's
kicked.
no way you could you just can't spin it otherwise. This is too much of a sample size now. And again, I know that the second half thing with the Titans, this predates this staff too. So that's also weird. So maybe it's in PK's precious DNA that he likes to talk about. But
Maybe.
But for these guys who are doing the job now, are getting paid to do this now, they are coming up with no answers, and their opponents are coming up with all the answers.
Does Amy Adams Strunk cut off the iPads in the second half? Guys,
Save some money.
this electrical bill's a little too much. I don't like this phone plan that we're on, and I'm cutting it off in the second half. You guys bring out the whiteboards. It'll be fine.
Oh my goodness. I like that theory. That's pretty good. Speaking of her, LD from McMinnville says PK talked about how Amy Adams Strunk is friends with the Lions older. That's Sheila Hant-Ford, who, by the way, again, longtime line observer here, exiting. Kind of seems like she knows what she's doing, which is, again, hire good people and get out of the way. Anyways, apparently PK said she might be more forgiving due to the Lions' struggles in year one with Dan Campbell. Your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, obviously we've talked about that comparison before. I mean, it was bad. Obviously, with the Lions, it was right off the jump. There are obviously a lot of differences in the two situations. One of them is, I don't think anyone in that season had any illusions about the Lions being competitive. Now, this year, no one picked the Titans that I know of, to be good, to be a playoff team. Again, if they did, if some homer in town did, I apologize for missing that. But 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, they're right in there, right? And the Lions at that point were expected to be terrible right away, and so, yeah, I understand the idea there, but it's just, again, like Amy Adams Strunk has access to way more information than we do. So I assume that Sheila Hant-Ford saw, this Brad Holmes seems to be a pretty good GM, and Dan Campbell, I like what they're doing. I mean, all that information is available to you that we don't have on the outside. What is Amy saying here?
I don't know. I don't know.
You can't, it's not just the results, right? It's like, again, you hired these people. I mean, you made these decisions to bring these people in here.
Right. Exactly. It can't be just the results. But I will say, like, it would be hard for me right now as an owner to look at the process of this and not have severe questions, right? Like, in the second half, it's a symptom of that. Like, how is it that you're this bad in the second half? Like, what's happening where you guys, for the life of you, just cannot get anything figured out in the second half of these games? Like, that, to me, that's beyond results. That's process. Like, why do you get your butts kicked as badly as you do in the second half, and you cannot generate any points in the second half? Like, that's beyond a win-loss result thing. That's a what are you guys doing type of thing.
For sure. Like, when does Brian have his calls with Amy on Monday? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, she should be asked to that, or should have been already.
Yeah.
What is happening right now? I mean, these guys, they have to answer publicly, of course. Why? And they have to answer that. And I'm giving PK crap, but every Titans fan should appreciate PK, asking questions at the press conference. But there should be deeper questions from inside from her.
I agree.
Yeah, all the time you want with Brian Callahan, more than the media has.
Yep.
And that's the thing. It's just like, do you have a sense that there's competence here? The problem is we're asking Amy Adams Strunk to make that judgment.
Exactly. Well, that's the other thing. Like, let's say that this ends up, we get to the end of this, whenever that is, whether it's the end of this year, halfway through next year, whatever it is, and it just becomes clear that she made horrendous hires at general manager and then at head coach. Well, guess what? She's got to go make the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, how much confidence you got in that?
That's pro sports, folks.
It is. 615-737-1025. More of your thoughts on the Titans and the Lions coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your thoughts on the Titans' 52-14 loss to Detroit yesterday. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Andrew. Andrew, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
What's going on, guys? How's your morning?
Good, man.
Great.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that you guys have been saying this morning. Yet I think this coaching staff, with the exception of Denard, is way in over their heads. And yet there are still some people, clinging on to the hope of, oh, well, Dan Campbell's first year, they started poorly. That team played for Dan Campbell from day one, and they were 11-6 against the spread that year. They were outperforming their expectations week after week after week. This team is 1-6 against the spread. They are, every single week, there is some horrible collapse in one phase of the game. It just screams poorly coached. And the main thing that I keep coming back to is what you guys just mentioned. If this goes poorly, we're back at the drawing board with Amy at the helm, trying to hire a new GM, a new coach. It won't happen this year because she's still paying Vrabel and J-Rob. So this is a 1-2 year thing down the line, and then we're back at square one. And we just seem to be one of those franchises that's going to be struck with bad ownership and bad hires in perpetuity until I'm in the grave. And it just seems so hopeless at this point.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Andrew. I mean, it's hard to disagree with much of what he said there. And
yep,
they do look like a poorly coached football team right now. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, they look poorly coached. We talked about the special teams to begin the show. I mean, yesterday's performance on special teams is a fireable offense. There's no doubt. Now, I don't know if they're going to actually fire Colt Anderson. If they did, I would say, yep, okay, I get it. I don't know if that's going to happen today or not, but they do. They look like a poorly coached football team right now. And Andrew's call there kind of alluded to it. We got a texter to the same effect, and I get it. It says the worst part of being a Titans fan is that there isn't even anything to be excited about for the future. There's no exciting key pieces, no evidence of coaching up or scheming up exciting plays. And right now, it's hard to find that. What are you excited about that you're building on right now? Is it quarterback? No. I mean, I guess you could be excited about the idea of getting a new quarterback. That would be exciting, I guess. But right now, I mean, look, even some of the high price for veteran free agents you signed this offseason. Good to see Ridley have a good day yesterday. Hopefully that could be something that carries over. But you feeling good about Snead right now? Nope. I'm sure not. There's not a lot to look at right now and say, yeah, we feel great. I feel good about Latham moving forward.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, Latham. And you would like to feel good about Latham and Skoronski together. Feel better about Latham than Skoronski. Yeah, it's not even any more about Skoronski better live up to that 11th pick. It's just can Skoronski be a good starter in the NFL?
Right.
We'll see. I'm not in or out on that right now. We'll see. Latham, I feel good about. I think you feel good about Sweat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's slim pickings for sure. And again, look, if you felt good about the QB, then that's how, right? I mean, that's how some of these teams have had these amazing turnarounds. And it's back-to-back years in this league now where it looks like it's snapped the fingers and it's just complete flip, right? With the Houston Texans. They had been compiling some talent in their depths of terribleness. And then you bring in good coach, good quarterback, strike a match.
Right.
But Washington, same thing. They've been down for so long. They finally get it right at quarterback. Washington's going to be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
So the quarterback thing can totally change everything, but those teams had some things to actually like it. I mean, good receivers, some good defensive players in Washington, right? And you just needed that. The Titans need more than that.
Right.
Again, this roster is more talented than we are seeing on the field. And so then you go to, okay, so what is happening with the coaching?
Mike in Lebanon says, how different would everything be if the Titans had a better QB? It changes the narrative. And it does. That's still the most important part of this, right? If you get good quarterback play, that is the most important thing to have in your organization. It makes up for a lot. But again, these problems right now are deeper than just the quarterback play. The special teams is, I don't know if atrocious is a strong enough word for it. It's just awful. The defense, again, we'll see what the numbers look like
I bet you they'll be
I
number
bet
one.
they'll be
they didn't
number
give
one,
Up, they didn't give up
right?
any
Like,
yards. They just give up touchdowns
like,
wherever the drive starts.
That's the thing. Like you got a play yesterday, and I realize it's the Lions and that they have a great offensive line, and they might be the best offensive football team in the league. The first touchdown of the game, Montgomery scores, and Jeffrey Simmons is getting pushed back 9 yards yesterday. When you needed to come up with stops. And look, when you give up bad plays on special teams and turn the ball over, your defense is allowed to make a stop after those plays. And they didn't do it yesterday. So right now, in every phase, and defense probably less so than the other two, but in every phase, they just look like a poorly run football team right now.
Yeah, and special teams especially. And by the way, speaking of me not being able to keep with the text line, I apologize to whoever sent this to me, but it is true that Colt Anderson was the guy who got the ball in the worst fake punt ever in the NFL. Like, if you guys don't remember, it was a 2015 against the Patriots. Close game, big game. And, like, they just snapped Colt Anderson the ball and no one blocked for it. It was the weirdest fake punt I've ever seen.
Was that Pagano?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was that's the heritage of
that's where you learn football.
I mean, if anybody hasn't seen this fake punt, it really is like it's an all-timer. It's like I have no idea what they possibly could have thought would work there. Like no one blocked for him.
It's
so
unbelievable.
there you go. There's your special teams coach.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. We'll get his reaction, who was live in Detroit yesterday to the 52-14 beatdown at the hands of the Lions. That's coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Monday morning. Titans get destroyed 52-14 in Detroit. Paul Kuharski was there, live and in person, and he joins us now on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Paul Kuharski from PaulKuharski.com. PK, good morning. How are you?
A little sleepy, boys. Actually, on my way to my bed.
Wow, how about that? Already back in town.
That's exciting.
What an early riser.
Very early flight.
Very early flight. PK, it's tough to know where to begin after that one yesterday. I'm going to start on special teams. One of the worst performances on special teams I've ever seen. One of the worst seasons on special teams that I've seen from any National Football League team. My question for you is very simple. Is Colt Anderson getting fired today? What do you make of where things now currently stand with him and with the special teams? That's just a disaster week after week for this group.
I would think it's got to be under consideration. For them to be, even the punts, the punt blocks were individual efforts, but all of this return yardage was, a unit-wide problem, and they couldn't nail it down. I talked to Mike Brown after the game, and he said, he's on both kickoff return and punt return, and he said they were coming back to the sideline looking at each other like, oh, what's going on here? It's just unfathomable to be that bad over the course of the game, and there's no real explanation for it. Colt Anderson was an assistant special teams guy for 4 years in Cincinnati. Guys graduate from that position into the position he holds now, but it doesn't seem like he's ready. And if we're going to be fair, Mike Vrabel got crushed for sticking with quote unquote friends and hiring quote unquote friends, and this looks like it's that. And I don't know if Brian Callahan's going to pull the plug on his own, but Amy Adams Strunk, it took a broken and smashed up leg and a torn up knee for Ryan Stonehouse for this to happen after the long reign of Craig Aukerman. I would think it has to at least be being discussed. And quite frankly, this team needs some kind of jolt. And that certainly would be a jolt. Anthony Levine doesn't have a great deal of experience either. He was with Baltimore. He was a Mike Vrabel hire. He'd be the guy to replace Anderson. But I don't see how it would get worse under new leadership.
I mean, you and your best friend Stilly spent years screaming about Aukerman. I mean, has Anderson already had more horrible gaffes in less than half a season than Aukerman did in his entire tenure? I think maybe.
It's conceivable to think that. And it's also conceivable to think that an intelligent reporter and a wild man hot take radio guy could overlap slightly in a Venn diagram.
Could be best friends.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, on the other part of this, PK, it's yet another example of, they came out hot. They scored 14 points. I looked at my wife yesterday. We talked about this earlier, and I said, watch, they won't get to 20. They didn't, and they didn't score at all in the second half again. And that includes where it's 52-14 before the fourth quarter. Detroit's called off the dogs, and you still can't go down there and put up points. And it's to the point now where, like if I'm Amy Adams Strunk, and I don't know if she's already had this conversation or not, but do you not have to look at your coaching staff, look at your front office and say, okay, what's the process here? How are you guys so inept in the second half? Walk me through what you're doing, because what you're doing clearly isn't working in the second half of football games.
Didn't you read what Rand told Nick Suss of the Tennessean?
Yeah, I saw that.
Trust us. Trust us. And some bounces, man. I mean, they didn't get some bounces. If the fumble luck came out, they would have scored 2 more touchdowns, and the and Detroit would have scored one less touchdown. You guys do the math. I mean,
You did it. I saw your tweet. You did the math.
That makes it much less of a blowout.
It's truly
And
unbelievable.
if it's much less of a blowout, everything's fine.
By the way, how is Suss out hustling you and getting Rand? Where's your interview with Rand?
I requested Rand last week and I was declined.
So wait a minute. Was this Suss like finding him in the elevator, or like this was actually he got this interview set up?
I would certainly think it was somehow set up, but I don't know. I mean, if I was in an elevator with Rand and I said, "Hey, how about a quick Q&A?" I would think that Rand wouldn't have spoken words. So
the ball's bouncing
no
a little
idea.
bit wrong for you, and I'm not going to answer your questions.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Look, I try not to say too much in the hope that Rand will one day speak to me, but Rand's not going to speak to me. Frankly, if you read that, I don't know how you could think it wouldn't be, how you could think from a Titans perspective, it wouldn't have been better for Rand not to speak.
That's the thing. We sit here last week like Rand better talk, and now he talked. So I mean, right? Like what
Awful.
Pick your poison, I guess.
Utter foolishness.
Yeah.
That makes you say this guy's making terrible moves and then can't speak in defense of them.
So on the Callahan front, PK, they're 1-6. They've gotten destroyed the last 2 weeks. You've started to sell off pieces. How tough a job do you think is now in front of him, keeping this thing, trying to keep yourself from being underwater here? I mean, look, I know Titans fans have turned their attention now to how high of a draft pick they could get, and that's fine. I don't fault the fan base for feeling that way. But if they continue to lose games here, and it's just tidal wave of negativity, I think that becomes really difficult to dig your way out of as a coach. How challenging do you feel like that's about to be for Brian Callahan the rest of the way here?
I mean, he's underwater. He's absolutely underwater, and they need something, anything good to happen. New England's coming to town. I don't know that there aren't too many better matchups to get. I know New England had a good win over the Jets, but here's a team.
Air quotes.
Here's a team that's as comparable as you're going to find in the league, pretty much at your place. If you can't claw out a win against them, you've staked your claim very clearly for worst in the league, with Jacksonville still to come. And I don't see where the hope is for showing anything this year outside of saying it's a 2-year process thing, which isn't much of a sales pitch. And you can say it's a 2-year process now, but you were not saying it's a 2-year process when you spent all that money on all those free agents. You were not saying that at all. You were saying, look, we've plugged a lot of these holes, and by spending that money, you're saying we're going to be competitive now, and you're not competitive now.
You've covered the full range, PK, in a long career, long career, just to remind everyone of your age. But seriously,
which is roughly your age.
Oh no, you're much older than me. Come on now. But seriously, you've seen the best. You've seen great teams, you've seen awful teams, and you've seen a team go through a march like this a few times, right? What's the concern level of just keeping guys engaged? I think people overstate things like effort and stuff like that. But there's higher levels of effort. There's preparation. There's a team that feels cohesive and is actually working toward a common goal. And then you got a bunch of individuals who are just, trying to figure out where their next move is. What's your temperature on this locker room, and how bad can it be? How concerning is that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty concerning. First off, I got some stats last week about the 2014 Wisenhunt team.
Yeah, that was a great piece that you wrote, by the way.
Absolutely thinking that Wisenhunt's team would be worse. Absolutely thinking that Wisenhunt's team would be worse. And this team was worse through 6 weeks, and I'm sure it's worse now. This is as bad as it's been, and I've been around for all of it. And people always talk about this threat of losing the locker room. I think that the term you use there, disengage, is the right one. And tie that in with another thing I wrote about the leadership. I don't really see any offensive clear-cut leadership. And I think there has to be some production tied to leadership. That's an argument I used to have with Vrabel, who didn't believe so. But even if you're looking for a non-productive leader on offense, I don't see who it is.
More disrespect for
together,
NWI.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, NWI isn't going to carry a torch and lead this team. He's not a bad leader, but I don't know who's going to hold it together there. And I do think there'll be increasing disengagement, particularly from guys who don't have to worry about a contract next season, either because they're under a good one from this team, or they know they're going to be able to go and get one from another team. So unless you really have to, work your ass off to make sure that you're finding a contract next year, and there is a sliver of this roster that certainly qualifies for that, I think disengagement's a huge issue coming up for the rest of this.
PK, get you a nap. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Good to be with you, boys. I'll be listening here. You'll be my kind of lullaby.
Oh, I like that.
I'll have a nice gentle rant then.
Good.
Play some Fleetwood Mac.
Keep it kind of in the dulcet tones kind of thing.
Yes,
we'll talk about high school football.
Yeah. I have to be nice and fresh for the Yankees tonight.
Yes. Yeah, big one tonight.
Desperation time. DEFCON 1.
Yeah. How the Tigers doing?
Ooh.
Hey, man. Believe me, I can't complain about the Tigers. I just hope the Dodgers keep winning.
Wow.
Hinch got a big ovation before the game last night. He was there on the sideline.
Oh, nice.
That's very nice.
Very nice.
Very exciting.
All right, go to sleep.
Very exciting.
Thank you, PK. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. Our guest. We will have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
This is so frustrating.
Why are you holding your hands like that?
I'm trying to get a question in here.
Well, then ask the question. No, I'm just saying, like, you look ridiculous.
Kind of ugly, though.
It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45. Joe Rexrode's Rant of the Day.
So we'll get into the Titans. I do want to say I'm looking up at ESPN and seeing. I was like, it doesn't matter what happens with the Jets. Like, if they would have won yesterday, that would have been the main topic today. Wow, maybe this is it. Devontae Adams gave a speech, or they lose, and it's Aaron Rodgers talks darkness.
Yeah.
What did he say about darkness?
The question was basically like, just feels like there's a lot of darkness around here.
Oh, the question was about darkness.
It was.
It wasn't actually him talking about his cave. Okay.
Well, I mean, he brought it up. He's like, I've been in the darkness. It's like sometimes you just got to go in there.
I was born in it.
Yeah, he was a little Bane.
Oh, my goodness.
From Aaron.
Also, speaking of darkness, boy, I really feel bad for those Bears fans. I tell you what, right? Huh? Come on, Nick. Give me one.
The Bears today. The Bears tomorrow. The Bears every day of our lives.
Yes! That's our new drop on Robby and Rexrode. It accurately expresses the feelings of this program.
The Bears today.
Great defense from them yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, first of all,
had one of their defenders halfway in the crowd talking to the fans. It was fun.
Yeah, Tyreek Stevenson getting a lot of crap, as he should, because he was like taunting them and he's like, the play started. And he's the one who tipped the ball. But I got to say, man, I'm a little concerned. Is Kevin Byard the guy who, someone has to be back? They all jump for the ball.
I mean, Kevin Byard's hands immediately went to the head after the play.
Oh,
surrender Cobra.
That is a toughie. A tough one for the Bears. Give me one more. Come on, give me one more.
The Bears tomorrow. The Bears every day of our lives.
Damn right, baby. That's World of Isaac, by the way. Andy Isaac, Twitter legend. Shout out to Andy Isaac. He's a Lions fan, but we're keeping that. That's just general. That's a general observation of this show. But one thing we haven't talked about with the Titans, somehow we have not gotten into this, and we need to get into this. And a lot of people have been texting about it. Yeah. We've just ignored it, but we need to get into this. 1st and goal at the 1.
Yeah,
with a timeout. With the one thing that this team does well is run the football, right? Like, what is the best thing this team does?
Run the ball.
That's it. Like, it's easily the best thing, right?
Yes.
Like, they stopped the run okay. They're not great yesterday.
Nobody runs the ball in the
I'm
Titans.
sure they'll still be the number 1 defense in the NFL, so they can tout that this week. But they run the ball, and they were running the ball on the Lions. They were running the football on the Lions. They had a timeout. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know it was 4 passes in a row, but was it not 4 shotgun plays in a row?
I think it was. I believe you're correct.
What is happening here? I have not really commented. Brian Callahan's play calling. It's hard. Like, you can watch all 22 and see open guys and say, yeah, that looks like a good play. That could have been good, but the protection blew up or the quarterback screwed up or whatever. Calvin Ridley ran left, should have run right. Whatever.
Yeah.
Here's a play calling issue. Let's throw this onto the pile of this grease fire, this tire fire that is the Tennessee Titans. 1st and goal at the 1, 4 plays in a row. The best thing you do is run the football. You're running the football on the Lions. You have had success. You have a timeout, and you don't try to run the ball once. You don't even have a run fake at any point.
Yeah.
I mean, there are way bigger issues, I understand, with this team, but let's not forget that part too. Good God.
It's awful. You didn't even let Mason Rudolph get out there and stretch those legs a little bit like we saw in the first touchdown run yesterday.
By the way, 4 for 29 for Mason.
Yeah. No, it was it will get swept under the rug based on, number 1, the score of the game, and number 2, how bad special teams was yesterday. But it was truly, I guess, mystifying is probably the right word to figure out what they were doing down there. I mean, it goes back to the larger conversation that we've had. They just look totally incompetent. And some of that's a roster thing for sure. The coaching staff is not helping things right now. The coaching staff has done a poor job with this team. And that's another example of it. Just kind of feels like this team cannot get out of their own way. I mean, 4 plays down there, you don't run it one time.
Anyone have flashbacks? Butch Jones, Gainesville, Florida,
The chart, yeah,
2017.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had flashbacks to.
The Titans ran it. First of all, the Titans had 5.9 yards per play yesterday.
Yeah.
Again, 416 yards, almost 200 more than the Lions. They ran for 158 yards. They averaged 4.9 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Pollard, 20 for 94. He's their best player, I would say. Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It's unbelievable.
And that's just, again, it gets lost in so many other things, which that's how we're almost 2 hours into a show. But it's like, it's gotten to the point here where it's like everything, it's like Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
It can go wrong. It will. Like everything is starting to go wrong. And just, that's strong. That is a strong statement from an old man named Paul Kuharski. An old man who said that this is the worst he's seen. I mean, he's seen the whole thing. He's been covering this franchise since the mid-90s in Houston and said this is the worst he's seen. And again, 10 years ago, that is not a place that you would ever hope to go back to at all. I mean, there's cycles in the NFL. Of course there are. You're going to have good and bad teams, but like the entirety of this,
it's hard to argue against.
It's bad.
I mean, the numbers are what they are. The record is what it is. We were talking off the air last hour. That 2009 team, they started 0-6, which included just an absolute pantsing by the Patriots, 59-0.
That game came to mind yesterday.
And then, after that, they actually rolled off, I think, 5 in a row. After that, I think they went 6-2 as a whole after that game. They ended up, they went 8-2 as a whole after that game. Ended up 8-8 on the year. But I mean, that the beginning part of that year was bad. I was stunned. We brought this up on the show. I was stunned how similar the 14 Wisenhunt team and this team were just by the numbers. I mean, that's the Titans then were atrocious, abysmal. And this one's worse. Like this one right now is worse, which is pretty hard to accomplish.
Right.
And they shouldn't be with that roster.
And again, you can there's an argument here. There are people who are going to argue. And look, I generally tend to go this way with, okay, were you in close games? The NFL, you should be. This team's been in close games. They could have a better record. And it would not seem so drastic, of course, right? But some of the ways they're losing, some of the consistent second half stuff, the special team stuff yesterday was, I've just never seen it in the NFL. I've never seen anything like it in the NFL. Like some of these things are legitimately, no hyperbole, that bad.
Yes, no doubt. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Corey Curtis from News 2 will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the drubbing that the Titans took at the hands of the Lions yesterday. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Titans lose 52-14 against the Detroit Lions. They fall to 1-6. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2. Corey, good morning. How are you?
How do you think I am, Robby?
Probably not doing very well after the end of a certain game yesterday.
Oh, my gosh.
Whose fault was that? Whose fault?
Well, the guy yelling at the fans instead of backing up the play.
There was that. That was pretty
He
awesome.
at least got into playing,
He did tip the ball straight up in the air for the receiver.
Yeah, he was supposed to be in the back, though. He was supposed to be covering the backside.
Oh, Stevenson was supposed to be in the back?
Yeah.
I was worried that it was supposed to be Byard.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to guess it was Stevenson because he didn't know what he was doing because he was busy talking to fans. And by the way, you never, as a defender, bat the ball up in the air.
It wasn't great
on a Hail Mary.
Nice assist, though.
Well, he did. I mean, I'm not trying to defend anything, but he swiped down. He just got the very bottom of the ball.
I thought it was a good assist.
Yeah.
Nice
All right.
set play in volleyball.
By the way, there were 2 holds on the offensive line that were not called.
I need to go back. People say that. I need to go back and look. I looked. I need to go look.
I don't know about
that. But look, I'm not going to clink sour grapes on that because you know and I know that when you have those jump balls, there's all sorts of pass interference that never gets called.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever. You know what? As a Bears fan, that was so predictable yesterday. I sat there in my office next to Andy Peterson, our producer photographer, and I just said, Andy, this isn't over. But believe me, this is not over. And I was like, yep, there it is.
That's a tough
From the city that brought you Bartman. Here we go.
No doubt about it. So on the Titans front, 52-14, the final yesterday. Corey, I don't think I've ever seen a worse special teams day. I don't think I have. It's pretty awful. So my question to you is this. That's been very consistent all year. They've been horrendous on special teams. Is Colt Anderson losing his job today? What do we think happens with that moving forward?
Well, I am not you got to fire that guy. I think I've pretty much established that. And I'm always, talk about having a big enough sample size. But I also understand you've got to cut bait when you figure out, it's like the Browns with Deshaun Watson. They gave him all that money, so they just kept marching him out there. I mean, you're going to lose anyway. So, you're going to pay him anyway, So what difference does it make if he plays or not? You paid him. You may as well try to win games. So he's not playing now. They win a game. Look, you hired Colt Anderson. It's not working. Whether you think it's his fault or not, to start the season, you couldn't get a punt off. And now you can't cover a punt. And I think what gets me more than anything is after the first one, not just punting it out of bounds.
Yes.
I look, you've proven you can't cover today. You put, hey, look, we're not getting it done today. This guy's tearing us up. Just punt the thing out of bounds. Brett Kern made a living punting the ball directionally out of bounds. Look, I will take 42 yards out of bounds every time instead of a 55-yarder or a 60-yarder, and hope to God that somebody can cover. I understand that not all of them are, to the moon, but on one, I think that, I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, there was a guy who ran like 5 yards past the return man after he caught the football. I don't know who he was going to tackle, but it was someone in the end zone. And so I guess philosophically, I don't understand how you can't pivot and just say, we're just going to punt it out of bounds. We're going to take whatever yardage we can get here, and we're going to play it a little bit safer.
So Corey, some Titans fans are understandably talking about the number 1 pick now. I get it. But there's a lot of season left for this first year coach and his staff. And I believe this week is critical for Brian Callahan. And I'm not saying necessarily like job security, but like this could get real ugly. They don't have a lot of opportunities to win football games. I mean, I feel like he needs to come up with a performance there's execution, there's effort, there's cohesion, and they look like a professional football team. Where do you think he is, and how important do you think that is, and how much of a concern is just the locker room in general right now?
Well, I think it is important because I think what can really condemn any coach is when a team quits, right? I mean, because ultimately you have to be a leader of men. And look, do I think the team is still coming out and fighting? Yes, I do. But I also think they're incredibly fragile right now. I think, this team is obviously, we hear coaches talk about confidence all the time, that's when players really take the next step, is when they get success and they get confident. And that's when this team's lost all confidence. And the moment something goes wrong, the hands go up in the air and it's just like, oh boy. And, you can see it. The moment something goes wrong, it's just over. And I mean, and didn't Callie say that you can feel it on the sidelines?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's bad. That's bad. I know when Mike Mularkey came in, the number one thing he wanted to coach was competitiveness and competition. And that's why they had all these little games they played like all day long at the practice facility. It was all about competing and competing and competing. And, I know they'll talk about, you've got to move on to the next play because you've always got to win the next play. Well, this team's not doing that. He's got to find a way to get them to focus on the now and not what happened before and what could happen in the future. Because that's the real danger. And how do you lose to a team as bad as the Patriots? Well, you don't have any confidence and you find a way to lose. And he talked about that yesterday. And so they've got to find a way to not have losing in their head, because right now it's kind of ingrained in the culture, and he's got to find a way to turn that around. And if he can't turn around, then that is dangerous for him and for the organization.
Meanwhile, Corey, Nick Suss from the Tennessean caught up with the general manager yesterday after the game.
Yeah.
And he talked about, a lot of different things, but talked about the ball basically not bouncing their way after a 52-14 loss to the Tennessee Titans. When you saw that, what was your reaction to that?
I immediately thought of when I asked Jeff Fisher after the 59-0 debacle in New England if he was concerned about his job status. And he said, "Why would I be concerned? I have a contract." And I was like, wow, that's a complete disconnect from what just happened.
Yeah.
And that soundbite is a disconnect from what just happened. I think it's insulting to your fans to say we were just a few bad bounces away in this game. Look, I give coaches a lot of leeway because I agree with them a lot of times. You turn one or two plays and it can change a game. I mean, shoot, just go back to the opening game for the Titans. You change one or two plays, they win that football game. You can do that with a couple of games. You can't do that with yesterday. Yesterday, by the way, was exactly what I expected it to be. It was a really good football team that's really confident and really performing right now, just taking it to a team that is lost. And so what happened yesterday was no surprise to me, and to dismiss it as bad bounces is unrealistic. And I think insulting. And I'm look, I'm not a Rand hater or anything. If Mike Ditka said that about the Bears in that situation, I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? You got dominated. Your special teams were embarrassing. You turned it over 4 times. Okay. The Titans have 1 interception the entire season.
Yeah.
This entire offseason was predicated defensively on creating chaos and creating turnovers, because it's something they couldn't do last year. And look, I understand that sometimes the ball does have to bounce your way. Sometimes the ball gets deflected in the air and it just doesn't, and it's just out of your, I understand that. But again, your sample size now is almost half the season. And you have created 1 turnover. The other turnovers were a guy dropping the kickoff and a bad pitch from a quarterback. Okay. So you created 1 turnover. That is not bad luck. All right. That is not bad luck.
Corey, what do you think we're going to see both on the field and in the stands Sunday?
You think we'll see bags on heads?
I might see a few.
I think if they lose that game, you might see bags on the heads at the end of the game. Look, the Patriots, their coach called them out as being soft last week. He got a lot of grief for that. But they went out and they won a football game, and they didn't just win a football game. They made plays late to win the football game. so they're going to come in with some confidence that they can beat this team. They're going to watch the tape, and they're going to go, we can beat this team. We can get our third win. They're not thinking about picking first, all right? They're thinking about winning games. They're thinking about growing their culture, all right? They're not feeling sorry for themselves. See, Titans can't feel sorry for themselves, or they'll be right back, where they were. But, and I think Callie is absolutely right. Until they stop beating themselves, they're not going to beat anyone. And unfortunately, the expectation now is they will find ways to beat themselves. And so you say, what do I expect to see? I expect to see them find a way to lose this football game. And that is not me calling them losers, or it's the cycle of what happens when teams get into this spiral. And finding a way out is difficult. And I thought Dan Campbell was he knows about this. What were they, 0-10, 0-11 or something like that? And
bad. Yep.
And you looked like, well, this hire was a complete disaster. He's a caffeine addict, and he's talking about biting kneecaps, and they're a joke. And then they beat Arizona, who was like 10-3. And they found a way to dig out of it and to get better. And that's the big challenge. That's the big challenge. And we've seen, didn't Jimmy Johnson go 1-15 his first year?
Yep.
Yeah, and I remember Lou Holt's South Carolina team going winless and then beating Ohio State in a bowl game the next year. And, look, I'm not saying that the NFL is college football. I'm just saying teams can turn it around. It doesn't always happen overnight, but teams can turn it around. But usually there are signs of it. And right now, I guess if you're Brian Callahan, and if you're the Titans, and if you're a fan who wants to win games, not if you're a fan who wants to tank, you're hoping yesterday was rock bottom. Because if yesterday wasn't rock bottom, that means next week is rock bottom, and it's going to be really bad.
I mean, we probably should have all seen this coming. The Khalif Raymond revenge tour game. I mean, come on. How did we not foresee that?
On the same day Malik Willis goes off.
Yeah, Malik Willis wins his third game. Yeah.
No.
Did we lose Corey? No, he's back.
No, I'm right here.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
It just.
I mean, no, I did not see the Khalif Raymond revenge game happening. I thought Jared Goff would throw for 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I did too.
And Amon-Ra would go nuts against the Titans backups in the secondary. Didn't Amon-Ra just catch that one pass?
I think so.
And by the way, okay, this is a good example. And look, I'm not going to sit here and criticize play calling, because I'm not a play designer. All right. So I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. But for me, philosophically, on 1 yard to go, I like having my quarterback under center.
Yeah.
Because it sells play action, right? You can hand it off or you can fake it. When you're out of the shotgun, you're declaring pass. You're declaring pass. And so they already know what they've got to defend. And you won't got to defend 10 yards.
Yeah.
And, I understand what he said. We like our matchups, and we should win one-on-one. I understand all that. I also understand you've got Chewbacca at left tackle. All right. You spent the 7th pick of the draft on him. You spent the 11th pick of the draft on the guy next to him. You spent $1 trillion on the guy next to him. You should be able to get behind those guys and get a yard. They could have quarterback sneaked twice.
Yeah.
And gotten a yard. There was time to do that, and they also had a timeout. The Bears, back when Mark Trestman was the coach, when they signed Jay Cutler, they went shotgun from the 1 yard line. And they looked, I'm going to say something that is not very nice. They looked soft.
Yeah.
All right. And when you declare from the shotgun, from the 1, that you don't even want to try to run it, that is a soft approach in my aspect. That's saying I don't believe in these 5 guys up here to get me this yard. We're gonna, I like Mason Rudolph throwing to NWI more, and I'm not trying to disparage those guys, but they're not the 7th pick and the 11th pick and a mega $1 million player for your team. They're not. They're backup receiver and backup quarterback. And, you know, some point you've got to have pillars to your franchise, and you've got to ride those pillars to victory.
Yep. No doubt about it. Corey Curtis from News 2 joins us every Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Corey, thank you, sir. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah. We'll see how
Yeah.
the last 2 seconds of the game go next week.
It'll be
By
quite
the
thrilling.
way, regardless of how that game went, it was a wildly entertaining game, the Bears and
It was
Commanders.
very good.
It was very good.
And
Enjoyed it a
I was
lot.
really impressed because Caleb had struggles all day, and to lead that team to a go-ahead score was really impressive. And so I was very hopeful with that. And Jaden Daniels is spectacular.
He's unbelievable, no doubt.
He just is. And Dan Quinn's the NFL Coach of the Year right now.
I would agree with that too. Thank you, Corey. We appreciate it.
All right, later.
Corey Curtis from News 2, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. A lot of your thoughts to get to on the Titans 52-40. One 1025, 106.3 the game. This week's Nashville's best deal of the week, Teddy's Tavern. Teddy's Tavern, your go-to spot for great food, cold drinks, and live music right in the heart of downtown. Get half off a $100 gift card now for Teddy's Tavern at thegamenashville.com/deals while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, yesterday was about as horrendous as of a day on special teams as I've seen. Now, it comes in different forms. The Colts game last year, they got the punter killed, so there was that. A couple games earlier this year, they've gotten punts blocked. Really, though, in pretty much every game, it feels like there's been at least one just disastrous play on special teams where either they haven't covered a kickoff or, the ball has gotten bounced around like it did in the Miami game and nobody knew what to do with it. The punt coverage has been abysmal at times. Like, it just is a disaster right now on special teams. And yesterday, Khalif Raymond, legitimately looked like Devin Hester back there. It was unbelievable to watch him do what he did at the expense of the Tennessee Titans. And Callahan was asked about it after the game, didn't want to get much into the Colt Anderson part of this. But I ask you, if you're Amy Adams-Strunk looking at this today, heck, even if you're Brian Callahan looking at this today, how do you view the special teams? What has to happen moving forward? And how much of consideration, realistically, do you think they're giving to moving on from Colt Anderson today as special teams coordinator?
Yeah, you'd have to think there'd be some. It's the product, the results on the field are terrible. And when it comes down to it, you can I'm sure go through every one of these plays. There's a ton of information we don't have. We can go through every one of these plays and see this guy right here. And if not for that, everything, the structure is sound. Maybe there's three guys. I don't know. But when it comes down to it, that's what coaching's for, is
right.
So that you don't have the guy going rogue or getting out of his lane or whatever the heck happens. Some of it, I think, is, like yesterday, Stonehouse blasting these line drives, and that certainly makes it more dangerous for your return team and easier on the returner. But, yeah, I got to think it's a consideration. And there's all that information I mentioned. So you could go in there and find things that, if we fix this, this, and this, it's fine. But, man, it doesn't seem to be coming up with any answers. And, again, with things as bad as they were early with the punt blocks, and now you have this yesterday, I can't remember a worse NFL special teams performance in one game. Like, it was – I remember Michigan, Notre Dame, 1989. Bo Schembechler just kicked to Rakib Ismail on the first play of the game. I think the first play, and he returned it for a touchdown. And then he kicked to him again.
Yeah.
And it was like number 1, number 2 game, and he returned it for a touchdown. Like, that's the only thing that comes to mind in terms of, like, how could you possibly but that's still 2, and it's an all-time great returner.
Right.
And it's, it's coaching, head coaching, hard-headedness. This is like I seriously, like, is this a junior high game?
They look like they have no clue what they're doing.
You don't know how to cover a kick.
Yeah.
They gave up 3 huge returns, 2 punt, 1 kick, and they gave up another huge return. They got called back for a penalty in the lines, but it was, again, terrible coverage.
Right. Yeah. They look like they don't have any idea what they're doing. We had Kuharski on earlier. He brought up a quote from Mike Brown that he has at paulkuharski.com. Quote, "Somebody's got to go out there and make a play. I take full responsibility. We just got to be a lot better." It got to the point where it was so bad, really people were just looking at each other trying to figure out the answer. I think we just got to get back to doing the basic things right. That's where it's gotten with the Titan special teams is you get back to the sideline and you're like, I don't know, man. You're just throwing your hands up. That's not where you want to be.
No, that's not. So I have to think it's a discussion, consideration. Sometimes these things happen and an owner says someone's got to be accountable for this.
Yeah.
Very early in Brian Callahan's tenure. And again, he was with him for years in Cincinnati. So this is, and look, Vrabel did take a lot of crap, like Kuharski said earlier, for, hiring his buddies and sticking with his buddies. Ackerman took crap for years around here. I truly believe that already this season, this kicking game has had more crushing errors than Ackerman had in his tenure.
At this point, just punting
it's
out
pretty
of bounds
close.
every time. Yeah.
It's pretty close, if not more.
Yep. 615-737-1025 our phone number. More reaction to the Titans dropping to 1-6, losing 52-14 yesterday to the Detroit Lions. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Cyndi Lauper coming up this Friday night at Bridgestone Arena. And I got some tickets for you. Be caller 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. You going to go to the Cyndi Lauper concert?
You got a big football game Friday night.
And
So no, But good for Cyndi Lauper playing Bridgestone Arena. That's awesome.
I'm here for it.
She had some jams back in the day.
Hey, you can watch them on full display Friday night at Bridgestone Arena. Call number 5-615-737-1025. We will have Pred's Pick to Click coming up at 8:45. Steven Stamkos returning to Tampa Bay tonight, so that'll be fun to watch. Looking forward to seeing that a little bit later this evening. Right now, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines. One texter says, y'all sound surprised that the Titans lost, but sat there last week claiming that they'd be 1-6. Just saying. Surprised is the tone that we have today of the loss.
Folks, incredibly, the Titans have lost to the Lions. Now, I will say, as I sit here and make fun of that text, I did lock down the Titans winning this game. So,
you did.
I just taking a stab. Hey, man, they were moving the ball. They were sacking.
It was 14-14 at one point.
Jared Goff, they were moving the ball. TFL's running up. Just saying.
No, I'll tell you what I'm surprised by. I'm surprised that an NFL football team could be that bad on special teams. That's what surprises me, not the fact that they lost the game.
Yeah, there is definitely the surprise element to that coverage of kicks and punts.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Even the score doesn't really surprise me that much. If you would have told me Friday that they would have lost 52-14, I would have said, yeah, okay. I could see that. I thought it probably would have played out a little bit differently than it did.
I would have guessed about 350 and 4 for Goff in that instance.
Like Amon-Ra St. Brown had 2 catches for 7 yards in this game.
Yeah. And
they won by 38 points.
And they were missing their other starting receiver.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of shows where you are as your football team. And look, I've said this before. It's not changing now. Like, I know some Titans fans are totally giving up on the idea of Brian Callahan being a good coach. I'm not there yet. I will say 1-6, and even some of the stuff I saw yesterday, it's just not impressive. It's not at all impressive. And it's got to get better in a hurry. Like, that's beyond the obvious of the wins and losses. Like, right now, they look like a football team that is poorly coached and doesn't have a clue. And that's not what I thought we'd be seeing at this point.
Yeah, Corey brought up, like Jimmy Johnson earlier. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you the Cowboys were terrible. They're the worst team. They made the Herschel Walker trade. You know, we know what happened from there. And then Jerry's still trying to get another one there. So
it's going well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Switzer got one. But, there's the Dan Campbell thing is the recent example. I can't sit here and tell you. I mean, I do agree with Corey that the general perception was like, this goofball.
Yeah.
It just says dumb stuff and his team sucks. Were they this, like, on a more granular level? Were the Lions during that stretch this discombobulated and just – I honestly don't know.
They were not.
Yeah. So it's I do agree in general that you got to give coaches some runway and all that. But this is a critical time for Brian Callahan. Yeah. I think it's more important for the future of this franchise than people think in terms of just like figuring out what your draft pick is. You got to figure out if these people who are in charge of this team are the long-term choices to be in charge of this team. And they have done poorly enough to make that a question, which I would never have guessed would be the case in October 2024, given where we were in the offseason.
Well, the NFL has been around long enough, and it's got so many teams in it that you can find examples basically to support anything you want to support. That's right. True. Like, it's, Dan Campbell if you want to say, well, look at Dan Campbell. The Lions I think they started, 0-8. And then they tied a game, and then they won 3 toward the end of the year. So they ended up like 3-12-1 or whatever it was, 3-13-1 at the end of that year. And now he looks great. That organization looks great. They're drafting extremely well. Like, you can point to that and say, well, that's the blueprint for the Titans there, and that's what one day Brian Callahan will turn into. Look, I can also counter it to you. Go look at the Denver Broncos. They hired Nathaniel Hackett and figured out pretty quickly it was a horrible decision. I'm not saying that Brian Callahan's Nathaniel Hackett, but I am saying that sometimes it becomes pretty clear that you've just made the wrong decision. And again, I don't know. I don't think the Titans are there yet, but you can find examples of pretty much anything you want to find examples of in the NFL.
Yes.
Working out or otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Campbell, you want to keep with that thing. The thing about Campbell is the wonderful cliche, leader of men.
Yeah.
Right. But Yeah, people like him. People play for him. There's obviously that was also the Vrabel tag, right? And there is something to that, and that's the thing. I think that's where Brian Callahan is really going to be tested here the rest of this year. Is again, to take it to out of sports cliches, can he keep people engaged together, create a good work environment, and get people to execute and prepare and have a chance to win football games? They've had a chance to win several of these games. They didn't do it. We wanted to blame the quarterback for everything. The quarterback hasn't played the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
And, it wouldn't have mattered. But there is a lot more going on than just Will Levis having a terrible season.
Well, can you improve? Like, is there noticeable improvement as the year goes? Like, it's part of being a coach, right? Like, you got to get your team to get better. And that's becoming harder to do. Number one, I think when you're losing as often as they do, it's tough to dig your way out of that. And number two, I mean, now you're taking players away. Ernest Jones is gone. DeAndre Hopkins is gone. We'll see. Maybe there's more to come this week.
Got a week left before the deadline.
Well, there could be more that are out the door this week. So the job is becoming harder for the coaching staff to do that. But that to me has probably been the most disappointing thing is it doesn't feel like they're getting any better. And that is, and I realize the last 2 weeks have been at Buffalo and at Detroit, and that's much different than what they're about to see on Sunday taking on the Patriots. But there are some things objectively that you watch where it doesn't look like they're getting any better, and that's concerning to me moving forward.
Yeah, it's not just the losses, it's how. And obviously special teams is the headliner of this last one, but they've had other things that are just like that shouldn't happen. I believe the Tennessee Titans should beat the New England Patriots on Sunday. I absolutely do. Even with the personnel losses they've had, I think that they should beat them. And if they do, no one's throwing a parade.
Right.
But it'll probably suggest some level of sticking together and executing and improving. I mean, just if you don't have horrific mistakes from the last game to this game, I guess you've set the bar so low now that you can improve from 1 week to another. I think this is for him. It's a really important to get the result, but also, like you said, to have the performances that make you look like a professional football team.
Well, let's call it what it is too. This is one of the few games that they have remaining on their schedule coming up Sunday that you feel like they have a decent shot to win, right? Like, I mean, I guess you could throw. I mean, I have no idea what the Chargers are at LA, but that typically doesn't go well for the Titans. Minnesota looks a lot more difficult than we thought. Washington looks a lot more difficult than we thought. You've got Cincinnati on the schedule, Indy.
Cincinnati, by the way, where Callahan came from, they're hurting bad.
They're hurting too. Oof. Like there's not a whole lot of wins that I think are left out there right now. There is, PK said it earlier. He's underwater right now. Like there is so much negativity around this team, around this franchise, deservedly so. Like it's self-inflicted negativity. And you got the GM talking to the Tennessean after the game, talking about the balls bouncing the wrong way. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, don't insult our intelligence. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that is definitely a tone deaf statement for sure, given how bad things are. It is very bad.
Very bad.
And that's like, yeah. I mean, well, we've said the quote. You can find the quote. It's something.
It is something. 615-737-1025. We'll have Pred's pick to click. Coming up next, get back into our final thoughts for the Titans as well. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Preds tonight, you win a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Pred's Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Pred's tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is time for Pred's Pick to Click on Robby and Rexrode. Pred's back in action tonight, taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Steven Stamkos returning to Tampa Bay tonight to take on his former team. A standings update in the competition. Joe Rexrode back on the board on Friday, which means he has 3 correct answers. Nick and I have 1 correct answer. The listeners still shut out in the competition. No correct answers for the listeners to this point. So we'll see if that changes tonight. With that in mind, let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Caleb. Caleb, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click for the Nashville Predators this evening?
Hey, guys. So I went with Stamkos last time, but I feel like the Preds are just trying to feed the puck to him too hard on the power play, and Tampa Bay is definitely going to know that. So give me Philip Forsberg this morning.
Going with Philip Forsberg. Caleb, thanks for the call. Forsberg with a couple of big goals over the weekend. I'm up first today in the competition. I will go Steven Stamkos. It's too storybook for me to ignore it. So I'm going Stamkos with a goal tonight against his former team, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay, I don't mean to bring this up, but if you picked last time, doesn't that mean you're first next time?
We have a rotation.
So I picked last time.
No, you go with the second, and then you go first, and then you go back to last. That's how this rotation goes in the competition.
Seems a little fishy. Okay.
And now you're up again. Forsberg, Stamkos off the board.
I was going to pick Stamkos. Let's see. I'll go Marchessault. The
big goal
the creativity, big one for him. Maybe that starts a little run, and the creativity and Pred's pick to click. Maybe he'll have to get expanded a little bit, but it's going to be very repetitive.
He played with Forsberg and O'Reilly the other night, which I like. I like to make
called
up
for
that
at some point.
I
didn't
did.
You?
Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault off the board. Nick Keyser, who we got?
The captain, Roman Josi, gets on the board later.
Roman Josi. Still searching for his first goal of the season, by the way. Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, Josi on the board. Obviously, tomorrow we will get into the 3-game winning streak for the Predators. We'll see if it becomes 4 tonight. Taking on Tampa Bay. Stamkos going back to Tampa, so that will be fun to watch tonight. I'll have your pregame at 5:30 here on 102.5 The Game, so make sure you're tuned in for that. Joe, final thoughts on the Titans for the day. 52-14. They lose. They're 1-6. If you're an optimist, right now they have the number 2 pick in the draft. If the season were to end today, only the Carolina Panthers worse than the Tennessee Titans right now. So there's that to look forward to. They did get Calvin Ridley going yesterday. 15 targets, 10 catches for 143 yards for Ridley. So good numbers there. So if you're searching for positives, that's about what I've got for you as it relates to the Tennessee Titans. 1-6. You got the Patriots coming in this weekend. I am very interested to see today if there is a move made at special teams coordinator. That will be what I have my eye on today, because I think there is a chance that might happen.
Yeah. I think for sure and if there's not a move made by the presser, it'll be the conversation more at the presser for sure. I think it's possible. I think it's possible. And I think at this point, it is fair to look at this performance and say that this is not working. This person does not seem to know how to get an entire special teams unit, which is a very underrated part of football, to play like a professional football team. So I think it's possible. Robby, I wanted to get to one thing that people were someone texted about this earlier. Did you see the thing with Freddie O'Connell?
I heard about it. I did not see it.
Yeah, so someone asked in the text line earlier, I was like, is there actually something that's going to be coming of this? I mean, so somebody on Twitter was just like, I'd like to file a complaint concerning the local football team at Freddie O'Connell, right? Yeah. And then he responded, same TBH, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
don't think it
does not mean that there's actually any sort of like
revoke the stadium.
Yeah, there's no referendum on the Titan. Yeah, exactly. So, but it was still funny. And
here's this texter, which I also enjoy. I don't get it. Is the local media too close to the Titans? I gave up on them as soon as they fired Vrabel. Robby and Joe, quote, great move firing Vrabel. It was time. Yeah, the media didn't like him because he wasn't nice. Who needs nice? Let's ignore the fact of the nice stuff with the media. We spent the entire next day after Vrabel got fired talking about how stupid of a move it was And now it's turned into us saying, "Yeah, great move, firing Vrabel." See, this is what I hate about Twitter. I hate about
This
at times,
person
our text
isn't
line.
serious.
Yeah.
You're obviously you're trolling us, right? Like
We
that's
took
all we did was rip
a lot
the move.
of, and I have to be really careful with how I finish this sentence here because I wanted to say something else. We took a lot of crap for we were
For
Vrabel,
not liking
we
the
were
move.
Vrabel defenders when he got fired.
Exactly.
And now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we wanted to run Vrabel out of town. It's amazing how things that you just pull out of your butt.
Yeah, I can't believe
stick
this
at all times.
Yeah, this person is a joke. This is a joke. Go ahead and respond. Give us your name too. I have your number.
Probably not.
That you're joking. I wrote a comment in Athletic. I think it was like Titans have an ownership problem after they fired Vrabel.
Yeah.
Like what?
But yeah, great move.
Yes, we got ripped. And if you want to rip us, and people did, for hating that, well, then that's, then we can disagree on that. That's fine. But yeah, we do not get to go back now and say we said the opposite.
Well,
that's like Stilly type stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that I don't like Brian Callahan. I like Brian Callahan. Hope he turns out to be a good coach. But yeah, I wouldn't have fired Mike Vrabel. They've been pretty consistent on that from the moment they fired Mike Vrabel.
Right. And he will get his opportunity somewhere soon. I'm with you on Brian Callahan. I think Brian Callahan's a really smart guy. And I think again, when Vrabel left, there was a lot of talk of this is the new way of coaching, right? It's more collaborative, more, having relationship with your players, not the big, bad, glowering, yelling head coach. And there's a lot of truth to that. A lot of guys like that are successful in the NFL. A lot of guys with a similar personality are successful in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I still, if you made me bet right now, let me ask you this. If I had made you bet $1,000 right now, Brian Callahan will be a successful head coach to some degree in the NFL or not, what would you do?
No.
You bet no?
Yeah.
I think I'd still bet yes.
Well,
will it happen here?
Successful to some
well,
degree?
I mean, like end up with like a winning record. That's it. How about that? No? Okay.
No.
I'll bet you $1,000 right now.
Okay.
You know, bet right now?
Sure. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
When his career's over, I think he'll have a winning record. But I just don't know that it's going to happen with the Tennessee Titans. And it doesn't have to, by the way.
It doesn't have to. If it continues to go like this, it's going to be hard for him to get another crack at it at some point.
That's a fair point. Maybe I should reconsider that bet. I still think he has a chance to be a good coach.
I think he's got a chance to be a good coach too, but I do not have faith in any part of this organization right now. Zero.
It's hard to argue that you should.
Yeah. Titans fans, we said it earlier. We're sorry. You got to endure this on a week-to-week basis right now, and it's rough. We're sorry about it. We'll have all your coverage all day long here on 102.5 The Game from the 52-14 loss, and who knows? We'll see if a move is made today at some point. That
Tomorrow,
does it for us.
NASCAR.
Jason Big Joe up next. This is 102.5, 106.3 The Game.